Friendship is Monster, Chapter 2, Not Proud. The car rumbled softly over the black pavement. The tinted windows blocked sunlight from entering, and it was a comfortable temperature. Sunset nuzzled closer to the body beside her, an arm draped over her shoulder as Carrion drove through Everfree Estates. Sunset paused to glance out the window at the passing houses, each looking the same as the next. If she could help it, she would never come here again. The last 12 hours had been a living nightmare. She'd almost died, then she had almost killed someone else. The image of coming to with Twilight's mangled body in her arms made her quiver in guilt. She never wanted to hurt anyone, like, ever again. And while she had thankfully managed to heal the damage he caused, Sunset could still see how pale Twilight was, even as she had stepped out of the car. Sunset tilted her head when her mother ran a hand through her hair. "Tired, dear?" A little. I couldn't sleep after I almost..." Sunset shivered. "Almost killed her, you know?" She looked up to her mother's golden eyes. "I'm still feeling a little guilty, even if Twilight forgave me." "When I was your age, Sunset," Celestia spoke, stroking Sunset's hair again, "I fed without remorse. We didn't see humans as people, but as cattle. In a way, you are a far better person for feeling this. It shows you care for others, and I respect that." She shifted a bit in her seat. "There are some things in my past that I am not proud of. However, I have found the best way to ease guilt is to learn from your experiences, and try to do better from them." Sunset agreed. "That starts by never coming back here again." "They are quite pretentious little animals, are they not?" Luna grumbled as she stared out the window angrily. "Thinking that pigs living among pigs will make them any less piggy." "Luna," Celestia warned before turning to Sunset, "while I agree that harming you was wrong, coming here was not the wisest thing. Humans who fear monsters tend to live in large groups. They section themselves off to create a safe space for themselves and their families. By coming here, you have essentially invaded a place where they felt like they were protected and made them scared. Scared for themselves and their loved ones. These fears are not unfounded either. As sad as it may be, though, fear and hate go hand in hand. So, they felt the need to defend themselves." Sunset grumbled. "I don't understand why they'd be so vicious about it. Trying to get me out was one thing, but they had bats and knives." She felt her mother tense slightly, but the woman continued softly. "Well, what would a monster be doing in this place if they knew they were not welcome? Would most humans here think that such a trespassing was a joke? Or a dare?" Sunset sat for a moment before sighing. "No. A monster would most likely sneak in here to hurt people or to steal something. I mean, besides a grocery store, there's nothing but houses." "Yes, but there may be a more sinister reason. Long before you were born, Sunset, there was a similar gated community that was completely obliterated by monsters. They hated the fact that humans could deny them. They hated that humans had the power to keep them out, so they decided to go in." Celestia grunted a bit. "There were a few survivors." Sunset looked up in surprise. "Really? When? How big was it?" "There were about 1,000 people in there. Only 15 made it out alive. Of course, most of the perpetrators were caught and convicted, but scars run deep. Human fear runs deep. When they realized you were in the community, they went on full alert in case there were any more of us that had snuck in and were waiting till nightfall to attack. The police were out in full force. The only way we were able to get in was by hypnotizing some guards. And even then, only by a lucky break of a couple of guards who didn't have their defenses up as strongly that allowed us to get close enough to hypnotize them. Speaking of, I'll need to undo that when we leave." Sunset lay across her mother quietly, mind reeling. "I really scared them that bad, didn't I?" "I'm afraid so, Sunset. I shudder to think what may have happened if Twilight hadn't been there. It was very lucky that she found you before anyone else." What had seemed like a harmless prank had actually caused so much trouble. It was hard to remember what it was like to be human before, even if it only had been a few years. To be fair, Sunset had never really liked being a normal human. Being raised by her adopted mother since she was 3 had her used to the darkness of the house, and the 2 fridges in the kitchen, one for food and one for blood. Sunset wasn't raised in an environment with an ever-present underlying fear. She never knew anything else. Yeah, I guess everything worked out the best it could, considering. Celestia hugged Sunset around the shoulder gently and pulled her back to her side, allowing the rumbling of the car to lull her into a light daze. Frankly, Sunset had never been happier to see the large, old chateau she called home. The building had been Celestia's for the last 1,000 years, and was in great shape considering. It was well protected by a tall stone wall and a gated entryway. Carrie had parked in the driver's house before opening the car door for them. Standing back, as the woman took the covered walkway to the side door. "Thank you, Carrion. Please, take some time to rest. We are already set for dinner. The Apple family has said they will be bringing the food tonight," Celestia said, nodding slightly towards the short man. "Very good, my lady," the butler said, bowing before taking off to his room nearby. "Now then, we have only a few hours before they get here. It's best if you get cleaned up before they arrive. We'll talk more about your punishment later." "Yeah, okay, Mom." She smiled when Celestia kissed her on the top of her head. "Is it going to be formal, or I didn't state it when I called everyone over, but I do semi-formal to be on the safe side. Our guests might come in more regal attire because I called them before you were found. Originally, I just wanted to talk about the possible fallout that might have occurred had any humans, or you by yourself, been hurt. While that still needs to happen, this will be a good time for us to tell them you're alright. And to apologize." Celestia frowned. "Alright, I'll hurry and come back to help you set the table." Ah! Sunset had opened the door only to be suddenly hit with a light coming in from the window. She choked slightly as she felt her body burn and shrivel in the sun, before being yanked back into darkness. "Damn it! I forgot those were open!" Luna shouted from somewhere outside the shadows. "Carrion! Carrion! Where is that, Luna?" Celestia's voice was stern, and it reverberated in Sunset's ears. Shakily, the girl opened her eyes and could see she was being tightly hugged by her mother, the matriarch cloak unfurled around her, making a small, safe, dark place. "We have had those open for years. Sunset's lotion has been washed off." Sunset shivered as her mother turned to look at another person. "Carrion, there you are. I'm sorry to have to ask this after I just dismissed you, but could you close up all the curtains in the house for the time being?" "Of course, my lady." Hands softly treaded through Sunset's hair again. She could already feel her strength returning as she healed from the burn. She turned into the comforting hands that held her. There was more shifting before the cloak opened enough for Celestia to peer inside. "Sunset, are you alright?" she asked. "Yeah," Sunset looked up wearily. "Just tired of being a raisin 90% of the time." Celestia frowned, but put her arm over Sunset's shoulder and led her across the room. Celestia slipped one of her hands out, and Sunset heard the fridge door open before the hand returned for a package akin to a juice pouch. "You may want to drink some more blood. We're not sure how much you took from Twilight, but it can't hurt for you to get some more." Sunset greedily accepted the drink, finding the attached straw and poking it into the bag. As she took the first few sips, she stalled, pulling back to look the pouch over in confusion. "Is something wrong?" Celestia asked. "Nothing, just tastes strange." Sunset squinted at the expiration date before shrugging, finding it still good. She took a few more tentative sips, confusion washing over her. Why was it tasting off? As she drank, Sunset saw it before she nearly spat her drink out when realization dawned on her. "Sunset? No, nothing wrong. Wrong hole. Wrong hole." The girl coughed and pounded on her chest. Sunset leaned into her mother and caught her breath before taking the straw back into her mouth without complaint. Her mother seemed to question this for a moment before she looked back at some approaching footsteps. "My lady, all the windows have been covered, as per your request. Thank you, Carrion. You are dismissed." Sunset went about finishing the bag. Only when she was done did Celestia open her cape. Sunset blinked and let her eyes readjust. She could see her mother looking concerned. "What?" Celestia shook her head. "No, it's nothing." She gestured vaguely above her head. Sunset frowned and put a hand to her own, blushing when she found her hair frizzled up from the static of the cape. Celestia revealed a bit more of her smile as her daughter patted her hair back down. "Now, you should go get ready. Your path should be cleared. However, do try to get some more sun lotion on." "Yes, Mom," Sunset agreed, stepping out into the now darkened hall. Sunset arrived at her bedroom. It was a large and spacious, with one stone wall that faced the front yard, and 3 wooden ones that were painted a soft teal, dividing up the interior rooms of the house. On her walls were posters of a few bands she enjoyed, and some pictures of her friends and family. Walking in, she moved a few random articles of clothing from the ground and threw them in the hamper. She recalled being in a rush to meet Rainbow and Applejack yesterday, so she hadn't cleaned up after herself. Going to her dresser, Sunset yelped and jumped back a bit when her hand sizzled. Waving it around, she quickly realized that there was still some sun coming into a crack in the curtain on the other side of the room. Once she maneuvered around the beam, she started looking for clothes. Humming and hawing over a few articles, including some dresses from the closet nearby, she finally settled on a purple dress shirt with blowing sleeves and black jeans, all of which were provided by her friend Rarity. Laying them out on the bed, Sunset yawned before she pulled off her jacket and her shirt, shifting out of the fabric. She paused at the strange sound, one akin to sand running through an hourglass. Sunset wrestled out of her shirt, looking down in time to see a large line of dust slipping from her shirt down to the floor. Yes. She had been sulfuring yesterday, So that meant there'd be a lot of ash hidden in the crevice of her clothes. Sunset shook the shirt out on the floor, changing clothes before she took up her jeans to shake them as well. A small pile of ash, sizable enough to be noticed if one were to look at it, sat in the corner of her room at her feet. Sunset uneasily eyed it, uncomfortable to essentially looking at what was her burned pieces of flesh. She swiftly fished out the sunscreen from her side table, best not to make a repeat performance. All the skin boiling was making her wonder if she should finally take her mother up on her offer. Sunset still hadn't moved to the basement catacombs where her mother and Aunt Luna had resided, despite her mother asking if she wanted to shortly after Sunset had turned. It was a little too dark down there for her taste, and while it had become a comfort for her family over the many years they'd been alive, Sunset wasn't jumping at the chance to join them just yet. Only given the recent turn of events, she decided to reconsider. If she were to move into the basement, she needed to start sleeping in a coffin too, as the rooms were specifically made for one, and a bed just wouldn't fit. Sure, she had tried her mother's for a few minutes, but it was a little claustrophobic. After checking her appearance in the mirror, she smiled and fell back on her bed, nestling into the soft blankets. Sunset hadn't really intended on it, but after the moment she laid down, she was out. After what felt like a few seconds, Sunset was roused by a knocking at her door. She sat up, getting the sand out of her eyes and wiping a small line of drool off her chin before she looked at the clock on her bedside table. She had been asleep for nearly 2 hours. Standing up, she had noticed the knocking had become more frantic. Sunset dusted off her shirt, praying it hadn't wrinkled. Coming! Sorry, I kind of fell asleep, so nothing else got past Sunset's lips before she was tackled to the ground. Sunset! Rainbow shouted. Oh my gosh, we were so worried about you. Cheese and crackers, girl. We was up to our armpits in worry, Applejack agreed. Good to see you too, Sunset smirked, before sitting up so they could all have a group hug. The way her friends tightly gripped her back spoke volumes. What happened back there? Rainbow asked, helping to pull Sunset back to her feet. Last thing you said was, Rainbow stood back, mocking a confident pose Sunset would subconsciously take sometimes. Relax, guys. This is gonna be a cakewalk. I'll be back before you know it. Rainbow turned back to her, arms crossed and a pout on her face. We waited about an hour before we got really nervous, then about one more before we got scared enough to call you folks, Applejack spoke, looking more concerned than the expression Rainbow was spouting. Sunset sunk her head down a bit, a little sheepish. Yeah, sorry about that. But when I was in there, the yard sprinklers turned on and my sunscreen washed off. She noticed the alarmed look on her friend's face. Yeah, Sunset, extra crispy. Are you alright? Applejack asked, eyes darting up and down Sunset's form. Yeah, I got lucky, but I dropped the flag and I lost my bag in the— You got the flag? Rainbow said suddenly, cutting her friend off. Like, the one from the dare, right? Rainbow? Applejack frowned. Well, yeah, not like it matters now, but Rainbow edged closer, looking excited. You still got it, right? When Sunset nodded, Rainbow dashed whoop, jumping into the air for a moment, her wings flapping wildly. Yes! You did it! In those jerks' face! Applejack groaned, face-planting, as Sunset let out a chuckle at her friend's antics. Yeah, but to be fair, they're not all jerks in there, Sunset explained. Like I said, I got lucky and was saved by one of the residents. Most probably would have left me to frizzle, but I was lucky to find what was likely the only human in there who would harbor me. Well, you can't just leave it at that, Rainbow shouted, whooping into Sunset's bed eagerly and bouncing in her seat. You gotta tell us from the beginning. Sunset looked at Applejack, who tilted her hat with a smile before they joined her. Sunset weaved her tale of woe at the Everfree estates, about getting the flag, then being chased through town, the sprinklers, and almost dying. Geez, Rainbow interrupted. I didn't know it would get so bad in there for you. I actually wanted to go in after you before we called your folks, but— Rainbow gestured down to her wings and talons. But, well, I don't really blend in as well as you. You sure don't, Harpy girl. The mood turned to somber again as Applejack looked at Sunset. We're really sorry about daring y'all to go in there, Sunset. Yeah, I didn't know you'd be in so much danger, or I wouldn't have said it, Rainbow frowned. You guys seem to forget that a dare worked both ways. Sunset sighed before putting a hand to her chest. The blame is partially on me, too. They were all quiet for a moment before Applejack spoke. So, what happened in there after you, became a barbecue roadside special? Sunset deadpanned before smirking. Well— Next came the introduction of Twilight, dragging her into her home to a safe space in the basement. How Twilight had tried to help her, but was foiled by Sunset passing out, when Twilight eventually having to give Sunset some of her own blood to survive. Then Mom came to pick me up after she figured out Twilight's address with the puppeting technique I told you about, and, Sunset blinked. Are you guys okay? Both her friends were gaping at her, eyes wide in disbelief. Applejack was the first to function again before she spouted, "You drank, fresh human blood?" Yeah. Sunset rubbed the back of her head, gauging her friend's reaction. Not too proud of how it went about, but they both looked at each other, eyes wide and sporting uncertain and uncomfortable looks.
Rainbow looked down to Sunset's bedsheet, rolling a piece of lint in her fingers before asking,
"How did it taste like?" Excuse me? Rainbow rocked on her knees, chewing on her inner cheek before groaning loudly. "What did it taste like?" Sunset was thrown by the question, looking to Applejack to find the farmer looking embarrassed by the intrigue as well. "What?" We're curious about it, Sugar Cube," Applejack nodded, catching Rainbow's gaze before looking back to Sunset. "Only one alive long enough to ever had a taste of human blood with my great-grandpappy. We've hardly ever eaten meat, but when he was alive, he keeps saying that, as horrible as it sounds, human was the best." Applejack looked squeamish, ducking her head. I know better than my grandpappy. I mean, he was almost 2,000 years old before he died, but he was a product of his time. I wouldn't eat human meat myself, but I was just curious what it tastes like. I guess, if it really was all that." "Me too," Rainbow interjected. "I mean, my family's basically carnivorous, so we hardly eat any plants, and I don't have any relatives older than 130, which is up there for my grandma too. But I've heard that humans taste good, and was just curious." Sunset grimaced. She couldn't fathom eating human like one would a cow. Consumption of flesh and drinking of blood were two different things. Sunset herself was a vegetarian, but blood was not like meat in her eyes. It was like a byproduct, akin to milk. If the host was still alive after the substance was taken and could live on as usual, then it was harmless. "Blood isn't like meat," Sunset said, trying to look uninterested. It's all coppery, no matter who you get it from." "True," Applejack said, Rainbow nodding beside her. "But as a vampire, you have heightened senses, taste included, right?" Sunset flinched, mouth a thin line as she looked at her bedspread. Once again, Rainbow and Applejack shared a look. Sunset? Sunset mumbled, bringing her knees up to her chest. "I don't want to talk about it. I mean, there wasn't much of a difference I could notice at first, but when I got home and had to pack and..." Sunset set her forehead on her knees. I knew." "Knew what?" Applejack asked softly. That human blood is better than the old stuff we had," Sunset ground out, ashamed. "I actually thought the bag was bad at first, but when I realized... Well, girls, what if it's some kind of slippery soap or something? I don't want to hurt people. What if human blood really is so good? I keep trying to get it, no matter the cost. You're not like..." Rainbow said, eyes narrowed. "I know you, and you wouldn't stoop so low because of a craving. Yet, you never knew me before," Sunset mumbled quietly. "Well, what if it's not the fact that it's human?" Applejack suggested, catching Sunset's attention. "What if it's because it was fresh?" "Yeah," Rainbow added. "You said you didn't notice a difference. Not to mention, word for word, that human blood is better than the old stuff we have." Rainbow shrugged. "Maybe human meat tastes like chicken, but since it's illegal, it's like forbidden fruit or whatever. Maybe all the stuff we hear old world is nostalgic." Sunset tilted her head in thought, cheeks puffed a bit before sighing. "Maybe." "Look, if you still want to talk to anyone about this, it's your mom," Applejack said. "She's been alive practically longer than anyone or anything else on this planet. If anyone would know about stuff like that, it's her." Applejack sat back on the bed and hummed. "I reckon she's seen practically everything at least once." "Yeah, besides," Rainbow added, "you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. A kind of a morbid subject anyways. And since we'll never taste anything like it, for good reasons, why should we know what we can't have?" Sunset smiled lightly. "Thanks. So long as you this Twilight gown made it okay, I'd say things went well," Applejack said.
"Course," the cowgirl twitched at the memory. "Granny wasn't happy. My dad neither," Rainbow nodded with a skull. "No sports for a month. Not to mention, I gotta help him at the racetrack for the next few weeks." "Don't you like the tracks?" Applejack asked. "To watch cars races, yeah, not to clean up litter. Do you know how much litter there is at a track?" "A lot," Rainbow groused. "My mom's gonna have me do double the work too," Sunset sighed. "She said we talk details later." "Well, Granny practically tore my ear root off." Applejack pushed back the vines and leaves that was her hair, dotted with yellow flowers to show a slightly elongated, curled green root where her ear was. "Dragged me home and made me scrub every floor and surface available. Then was off to usual chores and whatever else she could think of." "That sounds sucky," Sunset said. "Oh, it gets worse. I ain't allowed to talk to the trees till Granny said so." Applejack almost literally wilted away, leaves shivering and flowers curling. "She told them what happened and now they don't talk to me." Rainbow looked uncertainly to Sunset, who shrugged a little. Applejack, I may not understand how that feels, or works, but I'm sorry you had to get in that much trouble over me. Oh, she wasn't just mad about that. She heard about the incident at Filthy's store and the bikes, and then you being missing didn't help, or the fact the humans there were fussing and fretting so much. She kept talking about how we may have severed the spiritual balance of human-monster relations, and how your mom got plenty upset with us. Applejack swallowed hard. I ain't never seen Granny so mad. She was more ticked than a lie to the research facility. What? Rainbow asked. Applejack continued. She made some good points, though. We could have really screwed the pooch on this misadventure. In more ways than one, Sunset said, wincing. There was a silence all around as the girls seemed to collectively agree and thought, never again. Dinner was a subdued affair. Celestia watched everyone from her place at the head of the table, Sunset on one side, Luna on the other. Their guests were stiff and slightly sweaty, no doubt nervous about what someone with Celestia's influence could do to them. Only one other person, beside the matriarch, was their usual self at the very long and a half-empty table. Granny Smith glanced at the three girls with a scowl, poking at her salad angrily. I've got no idea how much brain you three have, but you think there'd be enough for a full one between you. Applejack sunk into her chair. Sunset looked embarrassed, but disappointed in herself, while Rainbow kept poking around at her food, a little angry, but submissive to the elder before her. Granny, Big Mac began from his seat beside her. I don't think that's the problem with all you kids. You don't think, Granny shouted, waving a hand in her grandson's direction. All you kids never wonder what your actions will do. I think before I do, Granny, Applebloom said, looking around at Big Mac's form. Hush, Applebloom, and eat your dinner. I'm trying to talk to the Dare and Do sisters, Granny frowned, looking back at the three teens grumbly. I hope you three are happy. No, Sunset said as the two girls shook their head. Honestly, scared me half to death. That's not accounting for Celestia and Rainbow's father. Granny gestured to Rainbow Blaze, sitting opposite her at the table, who froze, pulling on his nice dress collar nervously. No, don't worry about us. I've already set Rainbow straight and handed out some punishment. The harpy man was sweating buckets. Looking to the head of the table, he caught Celestia's gaze and jumped a bit, quickly looking to his silverware and inspecting it. This will not happen again, I can assure you. Oh, calm down, Blaze, Granny said dismissively. Celestia ain't gonna do nothing. She and I go way back, at least for me. I know she never ruined your life over a toddler fight like this. You're a good father. I don't doubt you got this covered, but a good verbal lashing will help drive the point home, at least. Rainbow Blaze looked to Celestia again, who watched him quietly with an empty expression before she smiled softly. Blaze sank down in his own chair, relieved, and dabbed his forehead with a napkin. Granny growled back to the girls. You three do realize how easily startled humans are, don't ya? She poked her salad. They're like rabbits. You ever so much as growl near a crowd of them and they rather walk through midday traffic than look at ya. Applejack mumbled, I know. You knew? Granny's voice was blunt and Applejack winced, realizing her mistake. You knew? And you still did it? Well, Rainbow started, but winced when Granny looked at her. It's just those cops, and I heard all about them, Granny frowned, pointing at Rainbow. They talk to you without respect, and what you three do? You do just what they said and prove them right. You destroy property by breaking a bike stand and all the bikes on it. Well, Applejack said, the cop you lied to a good family friend and an honest man, not to mention a customer, 'cause his daughter still has some growing up to do, like every child. You break and enter into a private gang community, steal a flag, which is not only stealing but flag discrimination, and you almost cause civil unrest among the humans. Granny finally turned to Sunset, who withered. All so you can win a game of Dare? The three girls ducked their heads. Granny grunted, pulling her shirt straight and sitting in her seat. Is there any more dressing? All eyes turned to Applebloom, who froze with tongs in her hand as she was midway through refilling her plate, a mess of dressing around her mouth. I mean dinner like you told me to, Applebloom pouted, looking at her grandma in confusion. She looked to Celestia with a smile. It's really good, Lady Celestia. The matriarch smiled and inclined her head to the youth in thanks. Applebloom smiled back before turning to her family. So, about the dressing. Big Mac rolled his eyes as he handed the bottle to Granny. Right, Smith frowned before turning back to the other girls. Now, listen. I agree what those officers did was wrong. You girls don't deserve anything like that. You're all good girls at the end, but that doesn't mean you should act out. I hope you understand. Yes, Granny Smith, they all said and nodded. Well, good. I suppose I should pull out a pie then, Granny said, pulling a basket from under the table. There's pie? Applebloom shouted. Dinner finished, Applejack, Sunset, and Rainbow Dash were left cleaning up the dishes. As Sunset finished washing the last plate, she handed it off to Rainbow, who was still behind on drying while Applejack put things away. Told ya, no time flat if we did it together, Sunset smiled as the other two kept working. Right, just don't forget to wipe the table. Apple Bloom's bad food all over it, Applejack sighed, shaking her head. I don't blame her. Pie was good, Rainbow laughed as she handed off another plate. Sunset wrung the washcloth out and made her way to the dining room and quickly wiped down the table. However, when she got to the end, she paused, looking up to the nearby door leading to the pavilion, where the parents had returned for tea and coffee. All good things, Celestia. No idea what they'll do. Sunset stopped wiping and went closer to the door, listening in on the conversation. They know it was a vampire and it was only your clan and a few others in the city. Only a matter of time before they come a-knocking. I agree, Granny. It won't be long. However, they would need to prove that Sunset was the one in there before anything could be done. I do worry as she left her bag behind, but besides her phone, there shouldn't have been anything in there to indicate her identity. Celestia sighed, and Sunset could make out the creaking of an old furnace. Shouldn't we just maybe tell the police what happened? Rainbow blazed asked quietly. They may just give them a slap on the wrist. They may, Celestia said. But given my vast history and some families I don't have the best past with, they may pass for harsher punishment, perhaps even just to get at me. Or they may think that I'm reverting to my old ways. I'm afraid there's too much at stake, even for your girls. They could be pulled in as accomplices. Humans worry about a lot of things. They may not forgive too much, but they usually forget. If we keep quiet and nothing comes of this little stunt, they may think it was a prank or an accident or just up security, Granny said. If things get out, who knows who may try to take advantage of our misfortune. I know some people that have been trying to buy our farm, want to make a factory land out of it. If they see this chance, they may pull us into court however they can. Take up our time so we can't look the land, and eat our money with lawyers, till we ain't got no choice but to sell. Of course, it'd be worse if we didn't try. I don't know what would happen to Applejack if we left her to the system. Might give her community service, or they might spin it so she's in jail for life. Granny grunted, and a chair squeaked. And don't think they won't try to use this on you too, Blaze. That track of yours makes a lot of money. They might try to pull it out of you with what this is. Rainbow Blitz swallowed loudly. That being said, we may be overanalyzing, but it's better safe than sorry. All this quarreling over such trivial nonsense, Luna growled. This is why humans shouldn't be allowed to make decisions for themselves. They mess everything up for everyone, including themselves. Luna, Celestia deadpanned, how many times must I tell you? It is different now. Sunset pulled back from the door, nearly screaming when she bumped into something. Turning, she found Rainbow and Applejack, both of whom looked worried. Well, thank you kindly for having us, Lady Celestia, Granny said as everyone stood outside. The dinner concluded, and the guests were leaving for the night. I do hope next time we all see each other will be under better circumstances, as do I. You all drive safe. Alrighty, good night everyone. Come on, Rainbow. We got an early morning tomorrow. Blaze turned to his daughter, who pouted a bit. That litter won't pick itself up. Yes, Dad, Rainbow sighed as the two flew off into the sky. Night, guys. There was a pop as Big Mac drove the family truck up to the parking spot by the garage. Apple Bloom was already asleep in the back. As her brother hopped to assist Granny in getting into the passenger side, Applejack turned to see Sunset. Ah, jeez. Let's never play any dang old dare games again. Unless they keep it in the house. Pulling back, the girls chuckled. I can agree to that, Sunset smiled, patting her friend's shoulder. Both girls jumped when Big Mac honked the horn. Looking back, they could see the rest of the apples piled in the old truck. Apple Bloom blinking groggily as the horn had her awake. I'd best be going, Applejack sighed. We can talk more later. Yeah. See ya. Sunset watched as her friends climbed into the backseat of the car, the vehicle slowly making its way down the long gravel drive path. Celestia and Sunset, side by side, waving until the truck was gone. So, you heard us in the parlor, did ya? If Sunset was surprised at being found out, she didn't show it. Yes. I kind of expected that you'd know, but small feet on floors always creak. Something I've learned over the years, Celestia said. It's best not to worry about that for now. I suspect the Everfree estate will be too embarrassed that their high-priced security was foiled so easily for them to get too vocal. They may get police to investigate, but it's likely they'll want to keep any gossip about their failings to a minimum. They get paid a lot by their residents to ensure their safety. Something like this would be bad for business if it blew up too big. Then, what was with all the talk about taking advantage of the situation to hurt you or the Apple family? I never said the humans wanted to hurt me or take the farm. All they would do most likely is charge for trespassing. The only reason humans now wield so much power is because they have the ability to start a long, and quite frankly, dangerous war if they wanted. They are, however, by no means old money or powerful in the upper crust of society as a whole. Monsters still hold a large majority of population and wealth. Most likely, we would be the ones who would try to escalate it, if others knew they could benefit.
Sunset looked down, thinking, I know you said you didn't have the best connections in the past.
But I thought you just meant humans. Celestia shut her eyes. I've lived a very long time, Sunset. Yet, that doesn't mean I'm the only one with that sort of lifespan. In order to become as powerful as I am, I had to get my hands very dirty. I've had to make friends where I find foul creatures and fall friendships I would rather not keep. Though humans' lives are short, their memories stay by passing tales to the next generation. But the pain does lessen with each telling, until it's hard to distinguish truth and legend. Celestia frowned deeply, eyes opening with a dark glow. However, when one can live for eternity, you never forget what hurts the most, whether because someone hurt you or you hurt someone else. The pain doesn't fade until you let go, and some won't let go unless you've gotten satisfaction for their grievances, one way or another. Celestia turned to Sunset, the girl looking up at her with a small expression. As I said, Sunset, I have done things I am not proud of, but she put her hand on her daughter's shoulder.
I will not allow you to pay for my sins.
It had been several days after that fateful night. Thankfully, no police had come knocking. Celestia's thoughts seemed to be correct. Everfree Estates was trying to make as little fuss as possible. Yet, it did not mean Sunset's woes were over. She moaned as she stumbled back into her room, flopping onto her bed. I never want to clean the floor with a toothbrush again, she groaned, and rolled onto her back. The last few days that week had been nothing but housework. All digital life was gone for the entire grounding. That wasn't to say her mother was a taskmaster, as she allowed the girl momentarily to read books or to call her friends, all of whom had rung her a few days after her return, worried, but happy to hear she was okay. Peaky swore that once Sunset was back, she was throwing the three an official ungrounded party, whatever that entitled. Thankfully, though, the grounding had not affected the movie night next week the girls had already been planning for months. It took a little convincing, but in return for good behavior, their parents had decided to allow them to go. The release of the new action thriller Rainbow wanted to see had them all abuzz, most of whom didn't even know the name, but it seemed Rainbow Dash was hyped and wanted to share it with them. So, they all shrugged and made the date clear. Sunset, the red hair looked up to see her aunt standing in her doorway. Leaning up to her elbow, Sunset sent her a smile. Hey Aunt Luna, what can I do for ya? Well, your mother requested that I give you this, once your kitchen floor was as shimmering as your name. Luna lifted up an object from behind her back with a puzzled expression. She said since you were working so hard, along with your movie date with your friends, your chastising was to be lessened to an extent more. Though I do not understand how this object would symbolize that chastising, Sunset frowned, squinting at the small object in Luna's hand before she gasped. My portable Wi-Fi adapter! She leapt up taking the object from Luna's hand and kissed it. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you! Luna blinked, eyes wide at her action. I'm still unsure how that object brings you so much elation. Oh, well, you see... Sunset paused, face frozen in her smile as she puzzled how to best explain wireless internet to a vampire who has slept through 1,000 years of technological evolution. It, makes my computer work. Ah, you mean your large, compact magic mirror device you spend so much time on? Sunset's eyes shifted as she sweat. Sure? Well, be careful, Sunset. Such powerful magical devices are commonly cursed with black magic. Luna looked to the laptop suspiciously. Are you certain no souls were sacrificed for its construction? Pretty sure, Sunset said, but continued in an uncertain voice under her breath. Unless you count sweatshop workers. Luna mumbled, glaring slightly at the computer. Mayhaps I should hire an exorcism just in case. Maybe wait until Mom's home, Sunset said. I'm sure she can explain it better. Very well, young one. I will hold on actions until further information is available. But be wary. Luna put a hand on Sunset's shoulder. Though we have known each other for a short time, I find myself quite fond of you, niece. Sunset blinked before smiling again, this time a bit more genuine. Thanks, Aunt Luna. The two shared a quick hug before the older woman pulled back. Now then, Luna paused, bristling slightly. Someone is on our property. Huh? Sunset blinked, following her aunt to the window. They both looked out, Sunset sighing as she did so. Oh, that's just the mailman. I am well aware of the creature's gender, Sunset. What is he doing here? Hurried from her room. I shall handle this interloper. Post haste. What? No, Aunt Luna. He's a mailman. I mean, he's a, oh gee, what do you call an old-timey mailman? Messenger? Messenger. He's a messenger, Aunt Luna. Sunset shouted, running to the door to catch her aunt halfway down the stairs, Carla looking back at her, clearly hearing, thinking for a moment before continuing down the stairs. Sunset sighed. At least Luna didn't look like she was going to kill the guy anymore. Celestia had said to take progress where she could find it with her aunt and be patient. The girl, meanwhile, turned back to her room, boarding her Wi-Fi adapter again with a smile. Time to see what she had been missing out on. After looking over her new messages and inbox, Sunset rolled over to Facebook, pausing to check her wall before noticing her friend Pinkie Pie had messaged her. Hi, Sunny. I found Twilight's Facebook page for ya. Just in case you forgot. Love, Pinkie. Heart XOXO. Sunset clicked on the link, finding the human girl's timeline. She had forgotten. Tapping her finger against her desk, Sunset thought for a moment. When would be a good time to get together with Twilight again? She wanted her to meet all her friends, maybe even get involved with her group. Well, the movie next time they were all going to be together. Sunset was sure the girl wouldn't mind, so she typed a quick message. Sent from Sunset, 1:30 p.m. Hey Twilight, sorry it took so long for me to message you. I was busy with all my new chores and I left my old phone, so yeah, there's that. I'm going to be in Mid-Canterlot next Saturday with a few friends for a movie. You want to join? 5 friends were a few, right? Well, Pinkie would agree. Sunset! Behold! The girl jumped and wheeled around to face her aunt, who stood in the doorway. The messenger you spoke of was indeed carrying letters. He seemed rather surprised that I demanded to take them right from him, rather than toil with that box. Sunset looked down, paling a little. Aunt Luna, you weren't supposed to take his bag. Why? Are these not our letters? Not all of them, Sunset said, standing. He delivers to more houses than ours. How is that secure? What if valuable information was dropped to the wrong house? Are these messengers properly screened to assure that they won't spread their secrets under their care if tortured? Luna asked, clearly confused again. Let's call Mom for a second. Is the guy still out there? Yes, though he seems to be crying for some reason. Oh boy.
Sunset didn't get back to her computer till much later that night.
But when she did, sent from Twilight Sparkle, 6 p.m. I'd love to.
Okay, seriously, how hard is it to make my voice sound the same every single time of the day? I mean, that is Friendship is Monster Chapter 2. Oh, hello, kitty. My darn cats, they like attention. Well, anyways, after a little bit of debating, I decided, why not? I'll do a few more chapters of this story, if for no other reason than because I want to do Chapter 3, Movie Night, which is honestly one of my favorite fanfiction chapters anywhere. It'll be a bit to get that, but in other news, I hope for, in the indefinite future, to at least try to get a video out every Thursday from now on. Most of which will probably either be under appreciation reviews or fanfic readings, depending upon the length of the story, and I hope to have other big surprises coming your way. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this dramatic reading and that all my videos are worth your time.